Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to the Board of Trustees meeting for the Utah Transit Authority. I'm joined today by my colleagues Beth Holbrook and Kent Millington, and I'm Carlton Christensen, Chair of the Board of Trustees. We would acknowledge that due to COVID-19 circumstances that our meeting is being streamed live and that public comment was received previously. And certainly we welcome any comments that others may choose to want to give going forward. Participants today will participate via WebEx, and that is being streamed live over our YouTube channel. Let's begin with our Safety First Minute, and with that, we'll turn to Sheldon Shaw, our Security Director, and good morning, Sheldon.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Trustees. This morning, I feel compelled to talk about the fire danger in our state. If you look back a few weeks ago over the 4th of July, in 2019, we had 32 fireworks fires that the fire department responded to over the 4th. In 2020, there were 65 of those fires that the fire department had to respond to. And unfortunately, as the Pioneer holiday comes up this weekend, the dangers are even higher. We have low humidity, high heat, very little rain. There have been 50 fires so far this year that have been started by fireworks. And in the Salt Lake Valley, every day for the last 2 months, there's been a field fire. And so as we roll into Pioneer Day holiday, please let's be careful if we're going to set off any fireworks. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Sheldon. Great advice. With that, we'll go to our consent agenda, which includes approval of our prior board meetings. I'll turn to my colleagues for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Beth, seconded by Kent, to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll up over to item 4, which is our agency report. We'll turn to our Executive Director, Carolyn Gounod. And good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning. Just a few items today. One is I just want to, as I mentioned at our last board meeting, we have the 88th, 30th anniversary celebration, and just doing an event reminder that our virtual celebrations for the 88th, 30th anniversary are taking place later this week. We're looking forward to joining our partners in the disability community to celebrate this milestone, and I encourage everyone to join. Details on how to participate in the virtual events are on the ADA celebration page on our website. We do have started today a public comment period for our proposed fare changes. If you remember, it mostly is the fare changes are based on the fare policy that we brought to the board, and then we'll be coming back to approval for the board once we do this public comment period. And this is sort of required through the Title VI. We're holding a 30-day public comment period for those changes. The public comment period begins today and is open through August 21st. There are numerous ways for the members of the community to engage and give feedback during the public comment period, including sharing comments through email, phone, mail, or online using the open UTA portal. We are also holding a virtual public hearing on August 6th and have information boards posted at our customer service locations. And any detailed information is available at our website at rideuta.com/fare changes. So if you remember correctly, we're not changing our base fare of $250. We're just doing some simplifications of that. And so the monthly passes are a multiplier off of that, as well as the day pass. The largest changes, I think, is that the youth will have a 50% discount, as well as low-income seniors in the disability community. And then we also have that the express bus would go from $5.50 to $5, and as a premier service, and the ski bus service will go from $4.50 to $5 as a premier service. So the premier service would be twice the amount of the base fare. So I just want to sort of, those are the changes that we're going out with to the community. Is there any questions on that?
Carolyn, if the public wants to make comment, what's the best way for them to do that? Is that just through our website?
They can do it through our website. They can also participate in the August 6th public hearing. That's virtual. And they could also do it through phone. If they call customer service, we can take the comments down as well. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible, trying to do a public hearing virtually, as other agencies are trying to do the same thing. But we'd like to implement the fair policy change on October 1st. That would be the date, not the same day as the change day, but October 1st, that month, which coincides the beginning of the month, as it would be affect the monthly pass prices as well.
Great, thank you.
Carolyn, I had a question in regards to, are we going to be communicating this out through regular channels as well? And this is going to be something that we'll focus on after, until we get to the close of the public hearing?
Yes. So we can advertise it through a number of platforms that we have. We'll continue to do that. We're trying to do quite a bit of outreach on that. At the same time, we're doing outreach on the service changes. So we got to make sure that they're not too mixed up. But we're continuing. I think the communications department has a great plan for moving forward, and our community engagement manager is actually the public hearing officer, and she's working on that as well with the fairs director, Monica Morton, and Andrew Gray, who is our Title VI manager.
Thank you.
But we can also advertise it as well, or put it out in information that you distribute as well. And we could give you some information that you might want to send out to your constituency.
Thanks. That's great. I would appreciate that. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay.
Do you have a question or? Oh, I guess we're good. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Sure. Okay. So are we done? Are there any more questions on that? Okay. So I'm just going to have Bob Biles. I have two more items, but I was going to have Bob Biles talk a little bit about the local sales tax revenue. We got the report in yesterday. So Bob.
Sure, be happy to do that. And I'll give an update on passenger revenue too. You might remember when we talked about the forecast on July 1st that we had assumed a 73% decrease in passenger revenue for the month of June. It was 47% decrease, but that's a $1.2 million favorable variance from what we had expected for June. And we did receive our sales tax collections distribution yesterday, and we'd assumed a 25% reduction in sales tax. This goes back to May sales tax. We'd assumed 25% reduction. It was actually a 1% increase. So that's a favorable $6.4 million. So combine those two together, it's $7.6 million favorable variance for this month's collections.
And Bob, is that favorable variance, is that above what we budgeted or just above like last year?
It's above our revised TFP projections.
Okay.
We're actually almost on top of what we had forecasted for the budget for sales tax through May. Those numbers are virtually identical. So for the year, we're doing just fine according to budget. We'll just wait to see how that varies. And I'll report in a couple of weeks. But even within that, Salt Lake was down 4.6% from last year. Davis and Weber were both double-digit growth over the prior year, and Utah County was about an 8% growth. So we're seeing Salt Lake itself seeing slower growth, in this case actually going backwards a little bit, but the other counties continuing on the torrid pace that we saw before.
Thank you.
Bob, given that the unemployment rate's about 5.1%, I think is the latest that I saw out there, does this kind of like, are you surprised?
Yeah, I think we're surprised. We try to think about why this would be happening. Of course, unemployment compensation. I've heard that several times, that the amount that's been given for unemployment, for some people at least, it's more than they were earning before. There's still maybe the outflow of stimulus checks. We'll have to take a look and see if we can see by sector, if there are particular sectors that are significantly up. You would expect home improvement probably to be up quite a bit. So I think it's interesting to look at this distribution, wondering if some of this, people aren't traveling, and those who would come to Salt Lake County to work, if they're telecommuting from other counties, are they not spending their dollars in Salt Lake and instead spending it in their home counties more? There may be some of that, but this is very encouraging. I think we treat it as one-time revenue. It's still too early to forecast what the long-term implications might be, but we were probably over-conservative with our initial few months of the COVID-19 effect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Bob? Okay, Carolyn?
So I appreciate, Bob, our work on this. I mean, I know it looks like we're conservative, but I think we still continue through, as we don't know what will happen with the economy going forward, and whether what happens with federal legislation in terms of being able to support those that are unemployed and or been hit hard during this time frame. So I think it's appropriate that we continue the conservative views that we've taken right now on the budget. So last thing I want to talk about is a little on actually some good news, very good news, is that we actually had supported some Department of Energy grants that various partners that we had gone after with, and were quite successful. And I really want to thank Hal Johnson, who really has pulled a lot of that together, and Trustee Millington, who actually went on a trip out to DC to get some feedback on what types of things that the Department of Energy is looking at and providing grants for. So I just want to talk a little bit on the three projects there were three that were submitted, which we were engaged in and supporting, and all three received funds. One was the eMosaic Electrification Mosaic Platform for Grid-Informed Smart Charging Management. That actually sounds like a doctorate dissertation title, but that actually received $4.933 million. So they actually were quite successful on that one. And it primarily is for ABB and Rocky Mountain Power. They assembled an outstanding team to research, develop, and conduct wide-scale demonstration of a scalable and resilient electrification mosaic platform that provides localized and bulk grid services and reduces and stabilizes costs down the supply chain. And one of the partners on the research team is Utah State University, and Utah State has selected Salt Lake Intermodal Hub to use as the charging site model. And so UTA has been utilizing the ABB equipment for our electric bus project, and the team will perform planning and site evaluation of the electric distribution network and multimodal power loads and charging demands. And so this is really important to us, because as we continue to build our electric bus, we do have to, one of the things we continue to look at is our power supplies, the demands, the peak demands. And so this will be really important. It's something that we've been talking about, and I really want to thank Hal for working closely with Rocky Mountain Power on this as well. They also, another successful application was the Western Smart Regional EV, electric vehicle adoption and infrastructure at scale. And this project focuses on the development of local and grid models at the UTA Intermodal Hub site, and development and deployment of power balance and demand management systems for electric bus and public charging at the site. And this effort combines a diversity of electric charging needs, so includes light rail, bus, passenger, truck, and rail hauling services at an intermodal transit center to create really a multi-megawatt co-located, coordinated, and managed charging system. And that grant was for $6.64 million for that project. And then the last project was with Utah State, and it's they won $1.75 million, and it's a proposed transit bus electrification project that will develop a set of innovative planning and operation tools and identify effective strategies informed by sort of real-world implementation and validation to help transit agencies gradually and effectively deploy and operate electric buses. And we have a good relationship, a strong relationship with Utah State in this area, and we coordinate quite a bit. So they're collaborating with us as well as TriMet in Oregon to work with our agencies, and we'll be providing data and working with them closely. So I really want to thank Cal and his team for this, for these wins. It's actually quite nice to have this level of effort and partnership that we see in the EV industry here. So and that concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Kent, any thoughts that you wanted to add on that last one, or are you good?
Well, just to congratulate Hal and his team and the folks at Rocky Mountain Power and the Utah State University for including us and working with us. It's been a real privilege to be involved with it, and we're very excited to see that these grants have been given and the opportunity that we'll have to develop some really unique and world-class systems for electrification of transit operations. So we're pretty excited about it.
Ken, it's so unlike you to be excited over technology projects.
Yeah, can you believe that? Why would I be excited about these things?
Yeah.
It's amazing. It was really fun to be involved with.
Okay, wonderful.
I wanted to echo what Ken said about congratulating Hal and his team, and Carolyn, thank you. I think this is exciting, and I just wanted to reiterate that since Ogden BRT is going to be an electric bus system, I'm excited that we can maybe gain from this experience as a whole. So this is great news. Congratulations, everybody.
Great. I think, Carolyn, that was the conclusion of your report, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much. Some great news, and thanks for your leadership. We'll next go to item number 5 on our agenda, which is the August 2020 Change Day Service Plan Approval. This was presented to the board last week, and with that, we'll turn to Mary DiLoretto and Laura Hanson. Good morning.
Good morning. As you mentioned, this was presented to the board at the July 15th board meeting by Laura Hanson, our planning director, and today we're coming for approval of that proposed plan, and I am going to turn this over to Laura to lead you through this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mary. Good morning, welcome, Board of Trustees, Carolyn. I'm excited to be bringing this to you for approval today. This August Change Day is going to be an important one for UTA. We are restoring 91% of the service that was cut in April because of the pandemic, and so our customers see a big increase in service after this Change Day. In your packet is an overview summary of the changes that have been made. We went over those in some detail at your last meeting. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about that, or encourage you to support this change.
Well, Laura, one question I had, I know we got a few comments over the course of the week. Is there any common theme, or are they pretty route specific, and are any of them real surprises to us?
Thank you. I think we did receive a few comments, and not surprisingly, they're all asking for more service. And so, we are trying to be cautious as an agency, not restoring service that we're not sure that we can sustainably maintain. So we're being a little bit careful about which routes we're bringing back to make sure that we stay within a level that we can support with our sales tax revenue. The majority of the changes we're asking for just additional service, primarily on the train system and Route 6. And this August Change Day is just the beginning of what we hope to come back to you with in late August, early September, which is a 5-year service plan that will show multiple phases of restoring additional service. There are a number of routes that we are continuing to hold at reduced levels or remain suspended in this August Change Day, but we'll come back to you later this year with a plan on how we might either bring those services back or replace them with something else that we think might serve our customers better.
Thank you. Any questions for Laura or Mary from the board? No.
Just a
Were there any
comment.
changes, Laura, were there any changes from what we talked about last week?
No, we have not changed anything since our last conversation.
Okay.
Beth, you had a question?
More like a comment. So I just wanted to thank Laura and Mary for reaching out to me yesterday, and Eric as well, to really give me some perspective for some of the routes in my areas in Davis and Weber and Box Elder. And it's really helpful to understand the scope of what it is that we're doing and how we're trying to actually integrate our service and align it more closely to where those needs are and where they can be in the future. So I just wanted to thank you, and I think that this is a good step in the right direction.
Okay, great, thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion on approval of these service changes.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we approve the change day service plan that has been presented to us the last 2 weeks.
Second.
I have a motion from Kent, seconded by Beth, to approve the changes, and any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, and again, thanks Laura, thanks Mary, and for the staff that works.
Yeah, very, very well done.
So this will bring us to item number 6 on our agenda, which is resolutions, and we have one item, which is approving the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement with West Jordan City for provision of additional funds to supplement the existing stakeholder agreement. And we'll go back to Mary and also Heather Benning, who might also join in context.
Hello again. So this resolution is for an ILA with West Jordan City for their Tiger Project funding. And if I could have the next slide. Okay, next slide. Thank you. The initial Tiger stakeholder agreement and supplement number 1 with West Jordan City was executed March 30th of 2018 for their 2 projects, which was a sidewalk and pedestrian crossing at Wasatch Meadows Drive, and then also a wayfinding signage for Gardner Village. The initial budget for those 2 projects was $104,000. And then following execution of that, it was determined that an additional $137,000 would be needed for that project, for the sidewalk and pedestrian crossing project. Of that, we got $55,000 from UDOT Section 130 funds, and then the other $82,000 of that is coming from the City of West Jordan through funding through Salt Lake County. Next slide. This shows where that sidewalk and crossing project would be. You could see on the left of the screen, that is the parking lot for one of our track stations on the red line. And then the sidewalk would go along the street towards Wasatch Meadows Drive. And then south, we'd put a sidewalk along that drive, and then heading south, we would put a new sidewalk and crossing of the railroad tracks there. So that's what the project is. Next slide. And this just breaks down the funding, the additional $137,000 funding. As it shows, West Jordan will be contributing another $82,776, and the UDOT Section 130 grant gives us the additional $55,000 for that difference that we need for that project. And then below shows the total project budget of $241,967,000. Any questions on that?
Mary, I did have one question, and I know West Jordan was very excited about the project, and in the needed. They did express some concerns at one point to me about sort of their gap piece, and I mean, do we know or have a sense whether or not they're comfortable fading? I don't mind approving this based on this term, but I just wondered whether or not they'll act on their side.
Yeah, and Heather can jump in here, but as I understand it, Salt Lake County has committed to pay that gap. They've already sent information to them on that. Heather, do you want to give a little more detail on that commitment?
Yeah, sure. Good morning. So we had identified through design that the project was going to be short on funds to move forward with construction. And initially, the city was going to try to contribute that additional $82,000. But they had reached out to Salt Lake County and they were able to commit the funds to the project. But that's a separate agreement between the county and the city. So how it's going to work is we'll invoice the city for the actual cost that the project is over budget. They'll pay UTA and then they'll seek reimbursement through Salt Lake County. So, and I had received confirmation this morning from Bill Baranowski that he was okay with the agreement. So once we approve and sign, it'll go back to them for signature.
Okay, great.
Once that funding agreement is executed, we're basically ready to go. We can sign the construction contract and get the project underway.
Great, thank you for following up on that. Any other questions, though, from the board? Okay, if there aren't any, I would entertain a motion on the resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve our 2020-0702, the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement with West Jordan City for provision of additional funds to supplement the existing Tiger stakeholder agreement.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion from Beth, seconded by Kent. I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Millington,
Aye.
Trustee Holbrook,
Aye.
Chair Christensen.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Heather, for your work on this. We'll move then on to contracts, disbursements, and grants. And the first item up is a substantial contract with a commuter bus replacement with Motor Coach Industries. And with that, we'll turn to Eddie Cummins. Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning. I have Kyle Stockley with me today to help me answer any questions the board may have. This is a 5-year contract with Motor Coach Industries Incorporated, also the initial order on this best value contract is for 27 new low-floor commuter coaches. This initial order will replace our 2002 and 2004 MCIs. These MCIs are currently the oldest buses in UTA's fleet and will have 600,000 to 700,000 miles when our replacements arrive in 2021. This also includes options to purchase an additional 65 vehicles. The board to approve the initial 27 today. The initial order is $18,617,505. The estimated price of the 65 options is $83,409,190, bringing the potential total contract value to $102,026,715. However, all contract options exercised in the future will come back to the board for approval. Are there any other questions on this contract?
A couple of questions for you. And it was interesting, we actually got a public comment about whether we were selecting the right model. So it was clearly familiar. But I think mostly, maybe it was a driver, but it was, the access, wheelchair access, which I know in the early versions is very problematic. I hope for comment or style is a solution to that.
Yeah, I'll let Kyle speak to that, but I will tell you these are low floor MCIs, which means that they'll be more similar to a regular bus, and we'll have kind of a boarding with a ramp, much better than what we had in the past. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kyle and let him kind of talk about the vehicle.
Thanks, Eddie, and good morning. So the low floor version gets rid of that lift, and there's several of us that actually rode on the lift in a wheelchair, and it really is problematic for our customers. It's a huge maintenance issue. The operator, it takes a lot of time to actually load the mobility devices. So this is going to be a great feature. So the customers actually load from a ramp, and they go right inside the vehicle. And so there's really no ride on that lift anymore. And so in that lower area, there's a staircase for people to actually walk up the stairs. So now we have two entrances to the vehicle, the front door and now a middle door. In that lower section, there's room for two mobility devices and three regular seats as well. So when the person walks in the vehicle, you'll see a staircase on the left going up into the second level of that vehicle.
And Kyle, not that we dislike MCI, but are they the only ones that make these kinds of buses, or are they the dominant force? I assume we went through some kind of an analysis with whoever offered competing bids.
Correct, we did. We actually put out a best value RFP, and there are other vendors that provide a similar style bus, but MCI is currently the only one that offers that low floor bus.
I see. Okay, that's great to know. Questions, however, from the board?
I don't have a question, just a comment that I'm excited that this is something that has been addressed in terms of access for ADA, especially given that it is our celebration as well. So next week, I think that this is a good timing, and I'm excited to see this.
Eddie, one other question I had is, I know that some of the routes being suspended are some of these express routes. Are there enough sort of continuing routes that the replacement, this first leg of replacements, will be utilized today if they were here?
Yes, we still have plenty of express routes to be able to use these buses into the future. I think that's one of the reasons why I only wanted to approve the first 27 today, is really pay attention to that, provide us some flexibility in the future. Obviously, we'll have future requirements to replace the MCI fleet. I think the next round, and Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the next round are probably 07s right now. 07s.
Correct. Yep.
So a couple of years out, you'll be looking at, replacing those fleet types. But I think by being strategic about this, obviously we want to have the options, we want to have the ability to order these vehicles in the future. But I think that we look and see how our service evolves and what it looks like, and then we'll make decisions based on that information.
Great, thank you very much. Go ahead, Eddie.
One other thing that I would add is one of the nice features of these is that they do have 110 and USB access on the vehicles, so people will be able to charge their phones or laptops, things of that nature.
Wow, nice.
That will be nice. And I did actually see that in the comments for whoever, the gentleman or the person that submitted it. So that's nice. Well, good. If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion on approval of this portion of that contract with MCI.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve this contract for the commuter bus replacement with MCI. I think it's for 27 buses. Is that correct, Eddie?
That is correct, Trustee.
Okay, for the 27 buses.
Second.
Motion from Kent, seconded by Beth. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Kyle. Thanks, Eddie, for that presentation. That takes us to item B in contracts, and the first item up is a real estate contract for purchase of right-of-way in Box Elder from the Box Elder Federal Credit Union. I guess, Paul, you're going to lead that discussion.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the board knows, we've been, or UTA has been using funds that have been set aside by the Box Elder County to acquire right-of-way and preserve it for a future transit use. Hal, Spencer, Gail, and Tammy are doing a great job going out there and talking to landowners, identifying properties and putting in the offers that they need. So they have concluded the negotiations on this particular parcel, and we're coming to the board because it's over $200,000, which requires board approval. So this property, thank you. So this property the seller is Box Elder County Credit Union. The location is 500 West, 700 North in Willard. The amount of property that we're buying is about 3.8 acres or 164,000 square feet for a property cost of $376,600, which was UTA's appraised value. The seller accepted our appraisal. Next slide, please. This is a depiction of the property. You can see it outlined in red right there on 750 North. It's contemplated this property could be used for a future station site. That gives you a little context. Next slide, please. So the recommendation from staff is to approve the purchase of the property and then authorize the executive director to execute the contract and the related documents. Do you have any questions for us?
I'll turn to the board. Are there any questions?
Just to comment, Paul, I want to thank you and your team and Hal and everyone for working so diligently. I think Spencer's on too. And Spencer, thank you for all that you've done. This has been a great opportunity for UTA to really acquire a great deal of right-of-way, which we know will be valuable in the future. I know that the county is very excited to see the purchase of this, so thank you again.
Beth, do you want to go so far as to make a motion?
I would love to. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I'd love to recommend approval of the real estate contract as presented by Paul.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. I think it also includes the approval for the executive director to sign the contract.
Yes, that would be correct.
Correct. I'll amend my motion to incorporate that as well. Thank you.
So I have a motion from Beth, seconded by Kent, to approve the contract and authorize the executive director to go forward with the transaction. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. So we'll go to pre-procurement and with Todd Mills. And Todd, we can't tell whether you're on a scooter anymore or not, so we're hoping you're mobile.
The operation was successful, so I'm walking mostly normal. Appreciate it.
Excellent.
So we do have two pre-procurements this morning to bring to you that we're ready to go out for bid for. The first one is the Front Runner Operational Service Analysis. So this is a procurement for a consulting firm to be on call for front runner service modeling. The successful firm will conduct various service simulations based on investment levels and other system enhancements. Some of these include positive train control, double tracking, 15-minute headways during peak hours, extending the service on north and south lines, electrification of the corridor for hybrid locomotives, and longer train consists. Front runner enhancements are a prominent feature in local and regional transportation plans. Both regional transportation plans in UTA's transit district include improvements to front runner commuter rail. This contract has a term of 3 years with 2 one-year options. The procurement will be conducted as an RFP with selection based on technical criteria in addition to price. And I do have Carrie Doan on the line with us as well to answer any other specific questions you may have on this.
I'm assuming, Carrie, that this is really kind of the first step to our efforts to understand the needs and constraints of doing some double tracking along FrontRunner, but also to help us in our operational decisions. Is that right?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. That is correct, Mr. Chair. It's a step that is not only the first step, but sort of the step that goes throughout a number of years of work that we think is necessary to make prudent investments in FrontRunner in a kind of a phased approach. So this work will support any sort of project definition, whether it be something as robust as 15-minute service, but I think we have to start with something maybe less full system, and we can use this contract to help us with operational analysis on service that would be in between what we have today and that final service that we are thinking of.
Thank you. Any other questions on that one?
Well, no questions, but a comment. I had a good conversation yesterday with Representative Kay Christofferson from down in Lehigh, and explained to him that we were moving ahead with this kind of study to look at these kind of operational improvements for FrontRunner. He was very supportive of that, by the way. He has a number of other questions, but he was very supportive of this effort to try to improve the functioning of FrontRunner. And so this is being well received by those who are, by the legislators who are looking carefully at the improvements that we're looking to make. So thank you for this.
Well, thank you for sharing. That's great to hear.
Carrie, I wanted just a clarification. I'm just looking at the presentation. So I understand that this is going to determine the operational scope. Does that just focus on the tracks, or does it also focus on the vehicles? And if maybe you could explain that just a little bit.
So yes, thank you for asking. This is the operational part of what we think is going to require other professional service with respect to like right-of-way, vehicles, and sort of the developing a project like that we could actually package up and then ultimately construct. So the idea is to sort of iterate, have this professional group of analysts for the operations side that would feed into others who would be looking at right-of-way, the constructability of something, those more sort of civil and construction sort of fields. And this, it has to do with like ridership analysis too, right? So this is when you're thinking about various service options, we want to know at least the forecasted impact on ridership, hopefully in a beneficial way.
That makes sense. Thank you. I know that this has, I know several legislators in my area as well. I've recently spoken to Senator Milne, and they definitely had questions in regards to this. So I'm excited to see this move forward and for us to take this approach at this point. So thank you.
Great.
All right. Todd, do you want to go on to your next one?
Yes, the next one we have is a Scheiden-Bachmann TBM, ticket vending machine service contract. This is a sole source procurement for Scheiden-Bachmann to provide ticket vending machine annual system maintenance and support for 2 years. After asking for COVID-19 concessions with multiple IT suppliers, Scheiden-Bachmann is offering a 15% discount for a 2-year contract. This contract has a total value of $220,412 and removes annual rate increase from the contract time period. The total savings over the 2-year period from the current rate is $38,896. This 2-year time frame will allow UTA to go out with an RFP for replacement TBMs, as well as give us time for system configuration and implementation. And I have Dave Snyder on the line as well to answer technical questions on this.
If I remember right from the early onset, there's a lot of Scheiden-Bachmann vending machines in our system. Is that correct? And one of the reasons we'd look to them as a sole source?
That's correct, Chairman. We have roughly 158 of them installed on the rail platforms for both tracks and front runner.
Okay, good. Any other questions, however? Okay. Well, good. Best of luck in the pre-procurement, and thank you for those introductions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Take care. I think, well, we do have one more item, a grant application, and with that, we'll turn back to Mary Loretto. Good morning again, Mary.
Hello again. On May 26th of this year, FTA released a notice of funding opportunity through their Public Transportation Innovation Program for real-time transit infrastructure and rolling stock conditions demonstration projects. And they're looking for innovative technologies, excuse me, and designs to improve state of good repair and safety for transit agencies. So last Friday, UTA submitted an application for a project that would detect internal defects on rail track and tie structures through something called polarized infrared thermography. We're partnering with the U of U and a company called Autofill for this effort. Autofill has external rail scanning technology that would be placed on our rail cars on the front, and as they drove down the track, they would be able to detect any defects along the corridor. And this would help us identify defects much earlier and more efficiently during our typical state of good repair activities. The total project cost is estimated at $536,000 with a grant request of $430,000, and the local match would be paid by the University of Utah and Autofill, and UTA's commitment would be our time in administrating this project. If you have any questions about the details of the technology, I have Hal Johnson on the line as well. He's the one who spearheaded this effort. So any questions?
The only question I have is, so like without the potential of this technology, is it just an kind of eyesight, or how do they accomplish the task at hand, or do they just have to wait till failures occur?
Well, I believe they typically walk the line, but Hal, you might have more detail on how they identify right now those defects.
The Rail Services Group does magnetic scanning on the track periodically, and so it's a time-consuming and expensive operation. So the technology that we're looking at developing is optical-based, and so it's a less expensive solution that we could use more often to kind of monitor the state of the track and monitor if there's changes in the track.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just curious. So, what's the percentage of I don't know how to exactly frame this question, but what's the percentage of success in our current modeling versus what this could potentially do? In other words, I guess what's the difference between I guess it was the metallic definition that we do currently today versus the infrared. How does that work in terms of finding defects?
That's right at the core of the research that we're doing with the project, and so the current magnetic systems are really effective, but they're time consuming and to use, and so I think that's what the innovation with this grant is. So this is really kind of bringing together a couple different groups to try to develop a technology that would be able to find defects easier and more frequently for us. And so basically what it does with the infrared scanning is as the rail heats up during the day, it has a signature that you can see. But if there's defects in the rail, you'll see the differences with the heating. So like if there's a defect in the track, it'll heat up more quickly than the underlying areas that don't have a defect. And so that's what the technology is trying to implement, or that's what the technology is trying to do, is be able to find those defects quicker. So it's really that, it's kind of very cutting edge and research oriented. So this is kind of a first of its kind project.
Well, this is really exciting. I think this is a great way to use tech to help us to find flaws in our rail at this point. So nice work.
Yeah, and it's a kind of a cool coming together because EDC Utah had connected us with Autofill a year or so ago, and they were working on some different scanning projects. So it was a nice coming together of research and a private entity and a governmental entity like UTA to be able to develop some new technology.
Would this effort qualify for what we might call a public-private partnership effort?
I think ultimately that's the hope, is that this technology, if it works well, it could be implemented in a much bigger way and used by other transit agencies. So I think that's the hope with kind of pushing forward with this.
The reason I ask that question is because we're being asked, what are we doing at UTA to promote these kind of PPP projects? And this would be one that would be highlighted, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Good, thank you.
We'll cross our fingers and hope for good results on the application. So thank you for your work on that. Anything else on that? I think that was it. Okay, well, that brings us to other business, which is our next meeting. We'll skip a week and we'll meet again on August the 5th, 2020 at 9 a.m. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
A motion from Beth, seconded by Ken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to staff.
Thank you
for your work. Have a great day.